Hello, welcome to our green room conversation today here at Plaza Theater Company. We are so glad that you all have joined us today. We started this series last Thursday and had a fun conversation with members of the very first show we did, the cast members of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown from April and May of 2007. And so we're bringing back another green room conversation today, and we're very excited again. We reach way back into our past, and we're going to be having a conversation today with cast members from our second show that we ever produced, which we did in May and June of 2007. That is a wonderful musical that we love around here called Smoke on the Mountain. So we're going to be bringing in cast members from Smoke on the Mountain and conversing with them about the experience that we all had together way back in 2007 in our second ever production here at Plaza Theater Company. So welcome. We're so glad you're here, and we hope you have some fun with us today as we reminisce and talk about that experience together. So my name is Jason Barris. I'm the artistic director here at Plaza Theater Company. I had the privilege of actually being a cast member in that show, playing Uncle Stanley, and I've played Uncle Stanley in several different iterations of that production that we've had here at Plaza over the years, and I was in that very first one as well. So I'm excited to be bringing in some of those cast members. Right there on the screen, you can see pictures, looks like headshots of all of the awesome cast members that we had in that show. These were people that were willing to take a chance on us. We had literally just opened our theater here in Cleburne over at 208 South Main Street. We had actually an audition for this show in a giant empty room, and only two people showed up, but we were able to ask some great folks to come and join us, and we were able to put together this amazing cast that you see listed here as well. And we're going to talk with some of them today, and we're so glad that they've taken the time to join us and have this conversation with us today. So I'm going to start by bringing in Miss Taffy Geisel. Love Miss Taffy, who's going to be joining us. There she is from her home in Arlington. Is that right?
That's right. Gosh,
Welcome.
it's good to be here.
So glad to see you. I wanted to introduce you first because you are really the person that introduced us to this wonderful show, Smoke on the Mountain.
Aw.
And in fact, when we very first did the show, it was inspired by previous productions that you had done appropriately. And in fact, you developed characters for this show that were brand new and not part of the original script that are just wonderful. And so if you will, just kind of introduce yourself to the folks out there that are watching and tell them a little bit about how you came to be a part of Smoke on the Mountain.
Oh, thanks, Jason. I've been in love with theater since I was in kindergarten and got cast as the mean, ugly stepflower in Cinderella in Flowerland, and I got to wear a crepe paper tutu. So I was hooked for life from there. And I discovered this show. It was like the second or third show at a new theater in Hearst called Artisan, and got to be in the cast of that. I believe they had 3 people that auditioned for their first rendition of this. And I absolutely fell in love with this show. It's deceptively simple, but it's also deceptively deep and says a whole lot about family love and relationships and acceptance and redemption and how judgmentalism is not the way to go. And it's so funny and so warm that the people tend to leave the theater just feeling better about themselves, happy about the world, looking kindly towards their neighbors. And to get to be part of that something again and again has just been one of the joys of my adult life. Thank you for letting me be part of this.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being here. Most people out there will recognize you from this show as Miss Myrtle, one of the beloved Amen Corner ladies. But most people out there won't know that that was actually a character that you all invented in the original script. Where I say you all, I mean you invented in the original script. They do refer to the Amen Corner, but they
Mhm.
actually talk to the audience as though the audience members are in the Amen Corner. And you developed these roles to actually interact with the characters on stage from the Amen Corner, Miss Maud and Miss Myrtle. Is that right?
Norma Burks was with me the first time that we did the show, and together we collaborated, and things just popped up in rehearsals where our mouths just kind of shot off, and we were able to incorporate some of those smart alecky responses from the ladies. And over time, they have developed. I was watching part of the video from 2007, and um, the whole opening of the show is different now with the ladies coming in and warming up
Right.
the audience and tearing down the fourth wall. And it's so much fun to give the audience a different pair of eyes to see the Sanders family and Mervyn Oglethorpe through. It's just
Right.
great fun. I love being that nasty little lady.
And when we hear people come to us and talk to us about the show and their experience with the show, their first comment is always about June or who they
Yes.
call the sign language lady, but always their second comment is about the Amen Corner ladies,
Aw.
and they will always say how they have a family member or they know that person or they go to church with that person. They will always say that. So the Amen Corner always resonates with our audience, and
That's fun.
we've
Yeah,
been
everybody
we've been
knows a Miss
blessed.
Maud or a Miss Myrtle. We all
That's
know
right.
them.
That's right.
That's why they
Well,
resonate.
speaking of June Sanders, or the sign language lady, we have the original June from our first production that we did in 2007. She was a wonderful actress, still is actually, and we're so excited she's joined today. So please welcome in Danielle Beach.
Hey, thanks for having
All
me.
right,
Hey,
I said
Danielle.
Danielle Beecham.
You
That is
did.
actually your maiden name, I believe.
Yeah,
Your married name is what?
Wheeler.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Wheeler.
Yes, it's Danielle Wheeler.
Yeah,
So I
that's me.
apologize for
No, no.
announcing you with the wrong name. But welcome. So glad to have you here,
Thank
Danielle.
you.
There
Oh,
she is with her husband and I think her son Cole,
yes.
if that's right.
Yeah,
And Cole is joining
he's
us today as
he
well.
is. So if you hear little baby noises, there he is enjoying a little lunch. Say hi.
We are glad to have Cole with us as well today. Well, Danielle, if you will just kind of introduce yourself and tell the
Yeah.
folks here watching how you became involved with this project.
Yeah. Well, great question. So everything I had, yes, everything starts back to Taffy Geisel, actually, of all people. So I started acting my freshman year of high school, and Taffy Geisel was my very first acting coach. And I saw Smoke on the Mountain at, oh, he ran out of food. Sorry. I'm falling down on my job, feeding him lunch. So I saw Smoke on the Mountain, I think when I was in high school, and the original character, or June, the girl who played June, her name is Anne, and I absolutely fell in love with it, which is funny because this show is not necessarily geared for the younger generation. It's a lot of old, church choir songs, and not necessarily, something that you would think a young girl would really enjoy, but I was enthralled. Like, I loved the character, I loved the music, I loved the show, and I literally walked away. I think I shook Anne's hand, and I'm pretty sure I said to her, "I'm going to play that character one day," or "I need to play this character one day." And so later, when Taffy was directing it, I auditioned for it, and so I played June for the first time back at Artisan with Taffy, and then fell in love with theater, fell in love with everything about it. Then heard you guys were holding auditions down in like Cleburne, Texas, and I had to Google that, like, where the heck is Cleburne? And then I came, and I was one of your two, I think you mentioned that already, two people who auditioned in a really sketchy, empty room that had like nothing in it, and I'm like, this is what are we doing? What are we doing? This is crazy. But yeah, so that started my little career with Plaza Theater way back when. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Danielle. We're so glad you're here with us today. Also want to welcome in Kyle Adams. Kyle actually joined us last Thursday because he was a member of that first production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown as Linus. But he also did make a short appearance in this production, Smoke on the Mountain. The reason I say that is actually another actor, Daniel Merrifield, played the the role of Reverend Oglethorpe for most of the run of this show, as Kyle was unavailable. But on our very closing day of this show, Daniel and his wife, at the time Faith, had a baby. And so Daniel had to step away. So Kyle jumped in and played Reverend Oglethorpe for us on that closing day. And as fate would have it, we also recorded the show on video that day. So the video that we have is of Kyle in the role of Reverend Oglethorpe. He did play the show for us for a full run later as well, and had played Reverend Oglethorpe, I believe, before at Artisan. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
did
know the role. We did just throw him in there without any rehearsal. But welcome, Kyle. So glad you're here. Please introduce yourself and tell folks about your experience.
I'm Kyle Adams, as he said, and I got the call. I think the morning or the day before, I got a warning. You might get a call tomorrow, but I thought, nah, that stuff like that just doesn't happen. And then I got the call the morning of about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's go time. You got to come down here. And so I hopped in the car with Darcy and learned the script, the hour drive all the way down. And I think I spent most of the time during that show sitting next to Darcy going, where do I go next? What do I say next? The whole show. And we made our way through it somehow, and it just became a part of it.
And then we captured it on video. So all of that is on video and available to watch. And in fact, a surprise for you guys, there are a few little snippets of video from this show that we're going to kind of show the folks out there so they can see what it looked like when we were producing the show in our very first theater building over at 208 South Main. So Aaron's got those prepared with the poles in the middle of the stage, legendary as they are. Yeah.
Legendary poles. Embrace the poles.
Embrace the poles. That's right. Well, speaking of Aaron Seiler, he's here with us as well today. I want to welcome him in to join us. There he is.
Hi.
Aaron Seiler is the director of operations here at Plaza, but also plays the father in the show, Burl Sanders, or did in that production of the show. And glad to have you here, Aaron. And if you will, introduce yourself and tell them how you became a part of that show.
Sure. So I'm Aaron Seiler, and Jason and I, we brought our families out to this little town called Cleburne, Texas, and decided to. We had a building that had some poles in the middle of the room, and we decided to put a theater in there and shoehorn it in. And then we had some wonderfully talented people that came out and did a show with us in Smoke on the Mountain. And it was crazy and nuts, and still is kind of crazy, but that's really how it happened. I think, in the early days, we cast ourselves in all the shows because we really couldn't get many talented people to come out and do us. But the talented people that we had come out and do shows with us were very talented. So that's a good thing. Hey, Jace, it was funny. You were just talking about Kyle and Danielle and how Kyle stepped in on this one performance that we ended up videotaping, or I think it was maybe the whole day of Saturday, but we recorded that night. So I have this clip here of a song in the show called Whispering Hope. And this is a song that Darcy and I would sing as a duet. But while we sang it to the entire audience, not one person in the audience was looking at us because they were all watching Danielle and Kyle Oglethorpe over here doing this bit. So let's take a look at it. As the voice of an angel, breathing a lesson on her. Oh, with a gentle persuasion, whispers her comforting word. Wait till the darkness is over. Wait till the tempest is done.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, you guys. That was so much fun. It's so interesting in my mind to see that, because I see that in various iterations over the many years that we have done this show. But that was the first, and there's Kyle stepping in with almost no rehearsal, playing it with Danielle.
And a whole lot of hair.
That's right.
It's been a while ago. That's right. That's right. You jumping in that day.
Wow.
Well, one of the, as I mentioned before, we love this show. This is the very second show that we produced here at Plaza, and we wanted to do this show almost from the very beginning. As you guys alluded to, it was done at Artisan Center Theater, and many of you guys were involved in that show. It was a great show over there, extremely well done and well produced, and we knew our audiences here in Cleveland were going to like it, and so we were excited to put it on our stage. Tell the folks out there, if you will, and just whoever wants to talk, what it is, your impressions of the show, and what makes the show itself so special.
I think it's appealing because, like we know Miss Maud and Miss Myrtle, we also know those other people. And it's a refreshing step back in time, being in the late 30s. There's not the current stress of today, although COVID takes over everything. But the general pace of living was slower and sweeter. Especially for my generation, we know those songs. They were part of our childhoods. So it's very, very comforting there as well. The humor still plays, even all these years later. It's still funny. And it's nice that humor can last from 1938 up to 2020. It's so fun to play. It's just great fun to be on stage with all the talented people reacting, commenting, observing, and laughing ourselves. In fact, I did break character one time.
Was
That
that
I
Limit story.
That's your story. I'm not telling it.
That was not the 2007
to
production.
piggyback on
That's
what
right.
you
That
were
was
saying,
a few years later.
it's true. I think Taffy nailed it for I've again just going back to when I watched the show when I was in high school, just again saying that this doesn't necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily think that the show appeals to the younger generation, but it felt like you were a part of something because it breaks that fourth wall, because the audience is a part of the congregation at church. It felt, yeah, it was just like you were there, you were a part of it, and it brought you in, and it felt very homey, if that makes sense. Like, these people are my family, and even though I couldn't necessarily relate to the songs or relate to, I didn't know a Miss Maud or Miss Myrtle or anything like that, but like it connected to every single audience member, and it kind of brought you into their life. And then of course just June, I mean, you kind of have to see the show to even understand what the heck June is. But I mean, the opportunity to play someone like that and just be totally quirky and goofy and innocent at the same time, I mean, that's just so endearing, and so much fun. So all of the above, I just was absolutely married to this show, and it will forever be a piece of me. So
Yeah.
I think what Danielle said, it's the family aspect of it. Because I mean, family it's probably what draws people to your theater in the first place. Because I mean, family is synonymous with Plaza. You come to Plaza, and at least when I was going there and rehearsals, and there's little kids running around all over the place, and it's because the whole family was there, and it's just the Smoke on the Mountain brings that aspect out. First, it's the family singers on the stage, and then the whole church is the family, and then your family with the audience, and it's just we don't even know it. It's just that innate sense that draws us in there.
And I will just say, as a person that didn't grow up in the South and is not as intimately associated with the kind of place that this story is set or where it comes from songs, one of the things I've always loved is what they call the witnessing, the speeches that each member of the family does as they basically give testimony before the congregation of the little church. I love the wide variety of styles. I love that some of them are funny. and some of them come apart. And I love that we see through any facade that they might have put up, and that they're real people with real foibles. But through all of that, there's just this unbelievably powerful heart that shines through. And the dialogue, the things that they say, they are written on my heart because of hearing them and the meaning that they have. When Burl talks about his family, or when Stanley talks about being redeemed, or when June talks about what it means to be part of community. All of that to me is just so powerful. And then you temper that with Vera having the June bug blow up her whole Sunday school lesson. To me, it's some pretty mighty writing, and I do think that comes across very nicely.
Well, and you guys have
Well,
created, I'm sorry, you
Go
guys
ahead.
have created such a warm-hearted theater that welcomes people in. And as the audience even comes in, they feel welcomed and are able to relax into the show. And it's been such a joy to work with you guys who are like, just come on, play with us. And then creating the place where we can play and be creative. There are very few places like that. And I am so grateful to you guys for what you have created. And we are rooting for you guys to come through this COVID thing stronger and brighter and more financially based than before.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say, Taffy. I will tell you, to an extent, we're coming full circle. And what I mean by that is, when we met with our cast from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and talked with them last Thursday, one of the things that came out of that conversation was their memory of the fact that we played for very, very small audiences.
Yeah.
We had almost nobody there for most every performance. And as we moved into Smoke on the Mountain, I'm sure you guys will recall that we started out very small. I'd love it, Danielle, here in a minute, if you'd tell the story about the matinee we did for 3 people when we stopped the show in the middle of your speech. Hold on to that, because I want to hear you tell that story. But I will tell you that as we went along during that production, we saw the audiences grow. When Aaron showed that video here a second ago, you saw the size of that audience. That was our last performance at the end of that run. And I remember so clearly standing with Aaron in one of the VOMs during one of the solo sections of the show and counting the number of people in the audience and turning to each other and going, oh my gosh, there are 72 people here. And thinking 72 was amazing and being so thrilled with that number. And we've always talked about how Smoke on the Mountain really put us on the map. It really woke people up in this area to us, and the fact that we had something worth coming to see. And you guys were a big part of that. The reason I mentioned coming full circle is because, believe it or not, we're anticipating being able to come back with Smoke on the Mountain. And when we're able to actually fully announce our plans, whenever it is that we're going to be able to open, our intention is to be doing Smoke on the Mountain. So it kind of comes full circle back to this show that kind of got us on our feet to begin with. But Danielle, after all of that, would you be willing to tell the story of the 3 people
Yes.
matinee?
One of my favorite theater moments in my entire life, I'm not going to lie. So, Jason, as you were saying, we performed to very little audiences. I think like our average is probably around, I don't know, you guys correct me, but probably around 10 or 15, like kind of average amount of people. So matinee, no one was coming through the door. Like no one was walking through the door. Sorry. And then a little bus pulls up, and it had 2 elderly people from a nursing home, maybe. I mean, Eric, is that correct? Yeah. And then the driver. So there's like 3 people total, and they realized that they're the only people there. So they were like, well, we can just go back, and we understand if you don't want to do the show. And I remember having a cast meeting going, hey, do you guys want to perform? And all of us were like, of course, like, yes, we have people. Like, it doesn't matter if it's only 3. And they drove, I think, for a long ways too. So the funny thing is, since it's theater in the round, you block the entire stage for 4 different sides of the audience. But of course, the 3 people sat together. So we my son is really enjoying his floor time.
He's great. Don't worry about him at all.
Okay, let's come over here, Betty. So we reblocked the entire show while doing it to focus just on one side of the audience, which was really fun. And then I have one of the very last monologues of the show. So we're an hour plus into the show. They've really enjoyed it. We've made it very personal to these 3 people in our front row. And in the middle of my speech, which is emotional, and I'm starting as a character, it's a very like vulnerable place for her. This elderly gentleman who has a walker starts kind of like just kind of moving around, and I'm like, what is happening? And then because he's moving around and he's trying to kind of get up, the other 2 people are trying to help him. So they're trying to help him, and he's like talking and moving. So we have 3 audience members. I have no audience now at this point. I'm like talking to nobody because no one's listening anymore. And so I just kind of stopped, and I realized that the gentleman is trying to get his walker to go to the bathroom, which we had an intermission. Like, I was like, so I just stopped and I was like, excuse me, sir, do you need help? He's like, what? I was like, do you need help? Do you need to go to the bathroom? He's like, yeah, I need to go to the bathroom. I was like, okay. So in character, I went and I got his walker and I get it up and I help him out of his chair. And he's like, slowly crosses the entire stage to our one bathroom at the time that always got clogged. And then we all patiently wait. And then he slowly walks back and I help him sit back down. I fold up his walker and put it back. And I'm like, all right, are you okay? You feel better? They're like, yeah. I'm like, can I continue now? And they're like, yeah, please. And I'm like, okay. So then I keep going with my speech and my monologue. And it was hilarious. And it just worked. It worked. And it was just a lot of fun. So.
And in that theater, if y'all remember, there were no walls. We hung some. Oh, okay. We had hung some Walmart sheets up as walls, so you could hear everything, and you could hear the bathroom.
Yes.
Oh, you can't hear me? Anyway, I'm gonna hang on. Give me a second. Okay, maybe you can hear me now.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Yay. Okay, good. So we had Walmart sheets, so you could hear everything, and you could hear the bathroom, and so we just sat on stage and just kind of waited, and then we heard the toilet flush. We're like, oh, okay. And we're just sitting there, and we hear the door open, and then the walker with the tennis balls on the end, you know. But yeah, I mean, absolutely an amazing experience. It's incredible that happened.
It's true. It's true. And I think that if I remember correctly, it was one of our best shows. Like,
oh yeah.
And it was just for the 3 people. It was awesome.
Those 3 people got the best show that we could put on. We did not hold anything back. They got it all. They got to hold the June bug. They got washed. They got bled on. I mean, they got it all.
Well, hey, Aaron, I know you've got a few more clips. Do you have one you want to show us?
Yeah, you know, we were talking earlier about this moment in the show that Darcy sings. It's in what in the show her character calls it the blood medley. and right, but at the end of it, which is all kind of fun, and June's going around and doing crazy signing and stuff. And then there's this moment where everything becomes still. We get a slide on her, and June signs it, but signs it, 100% correct and heartfelt. And it's this beautiful moment in the show. So here, let's take a look at that.
And sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains. Lose all their guilty stains. Lose all their guilty stains. And sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains.
Lovely. And that kind of highlights a little bit of what I was saying before. No matter the shenanigans going on throughout the show, the beauty part of the script is that it always takes a second to do something really authentic like that. And in fact, so many times we would talk to people still who would come and see Smoke on the Mountain and take it as though it were truly a spiritual experience, as though they had actually gone to church and had something spiritual happen to them. Even though there was definitely some funny shenanigans that we were pulling during the show as well, there were always moments like that one that kind of bring it back to something real, which is a great part of the show.
What's funny, I was raised in an environment very similar to the Sanders family, and when they would talk about, everybody would laugh when she would say, "I call this the blood medley," and I'm like, "Oh, what's that funny? I don't get it," because I actually went to seminary and sang a traveling ensemble, and we actually had a blood medley. It was an a cappella arrangement of a medley of songs about the blood called the blood medley. So I'm like, I don't get it. It's real. This stuff's real.
Well, Jason, you said shenanigans, which made me think of the story. The one time I've ever seen Taffy Geisel break character, which takes a lot. I feel like you should share that very
let's see.
faith-based
How can I do
church
that
Christian
in a rated G kind of way? Well, let me preface it by saying my intent was always to be rated G, even though what came out of my mouth was not. So that's how I'm going to preface this. And I probably won't use the exact word as I tell the story, but there is a wonderful speech that Uncle Stanley gives in the second act. And during any of these witnessing parts of the show or the speeches, it's pretty much you talking to the audience and the other cast members. So there's no give and take on the dialogue. It's you giving a little 2-page monologue, if you will. And Uncle Stanley's comes at the top of the second act, and it's very heartfelt. He's been in prison, and he learned a very important lesson while he was in prison, and he learns about being redeemed. And it's powerful. One of my favorite things as an actor I've ever gotten to do on stage. Well, at the very beginning of the story, Uncle Stanley talks about how he has been he's been on the chain gang, so he's been popping rivets into bridges, and then he and his friend on the chain gang are out there having lunch, and it's a hot day, and so they're underneath a tree to get out of the sun. And the line in the show that he says is, "So there I was, sitting under the shade tree." It's very important that he says sitting under the shade tree. And if you happen to switch sitting and shade, you happen to mess up what you're saying there. So instead of saying sitting, you say something else. And you think you might actually just fudge that a little, but on this particular day, I didn't fudge it. I said it full out and bold. So the line came out, "There I was under the shade tree." And so 2 things happened in that moment. The first thing that happened was my brain went, "Well, that's not right." So I paused and I cocked my head to the side thinking, I wonder if I should fix that. No, probably not best. It's probably best just to go on. You know how you have like a quarter of a second where these thoughts go through your head. So my brain goes, "Nah, just go on." So I say the next line, which is, "Sounds nice, don't it?" At which point, all of my fellow castmates desert me and break as much as people I've ever seen on stage break before. Now, Miss Taffy, fortunately for her, had a little handkerchief, and I seared into my memory. I look at Miss Taffy, and she's got this handkerchief in front of her face, and she is shaking. She is trembling, and there are tears streaming down her face as she's hiding behind this, laughing uncontrollably. And the problem is, I've got a page and a half left of monologue, and all of my castmates have given up on me. So I've got to survive, which I think I did. I don't know. I mean, I'm still here.
You did very well.
You did very well, yes.
But it lives in Plaza legend
Yeah.
that there I was not sitting under the shade tree. But yes, I do love that story. It's a story that I like to tell because it was 100% true. Boy, that really did happen.
You caught back on it though amazingly, Jason, especially with all of us breaking into snickers throughout the rest of your speech. You really showed true gifting and professionalism in how you handle it. I did not.
Oh, you're
Sorry.
so kind. I don't think any human on the planet could have held it together after I did that.
So either.
So.
It was such a very real theater moment. Live theater, you know, it happens.
It sure does. Okay, well, just moving forward, did you guys have any stories about the experience, us putting the show together that have come to you as you've thought about the time we were going to spend talking today? Any reminiscing you've got?
How old was Mimi then? Was she
was
like
2.
1?
Yeah, she was almost 2. Yeah, she was 1. Yeah.
Okay, because I remember her practicing walking around the stage while we were rehearsing, and all the actors just simply walked around her. And
That's right.
I hold that deeply and dear in my heart because y'all are a family-oriented theater. And nobody was bothered that there was a toddler on the stage. We just worked around it, and that's the way it was. And it was delightful that she was accepted and not condemned and tied up back somewhere, and that everybody, even those that didn't have children, were just so charmed by her. And she was so sweet. She loved my cane.
You did. You
Yeah.
did. And actually, one fun thing is, so now, all these years later, Kyle is married and has children, and Danielle is married and has children, and Taffy and myself both have grandchildren now, which is very exciting. I think Aaron has a picture of Taffy's little grandson.
Oh, did you
there.
get it? Oh,
yeah.
That's our Josiah.
There he is.
He is our joy.
So, how old is he now, Taffy?
He's all of 6 months old, and he learned to crawl last week. So look out, world.
So there's Joey Geisel. That's Taffy's son and his wife. And what's his wife's name again, Taffy?
Emma.
There's Emma and Joey and their son Josiah. And for those that remember this production, Joey played Dennis, one of the twins, in that show, and Denise, the other twin, was played by a local actress named Caitlin. Mm-hmm. For years, we actually called Caitlin Uno, and the reason we named her Uno or nicknamed her Uno was because she was the very first person to audition at Plaza Theater Company. She came into audition. She didn't know who we were at all. She came into that audition in a big open blank concrete room and thought we were insane. But she agreed to do the show nevertheless. And she and Joey were a great Dennis and Denise and a whole lot of fun. She's a wonderful singer. Mm-hmm. She's also got married and has 4 kids, guys. Did you know that?
Oh, my goodness.
1, 2, 3. Well, there's 3 there.
There's
so maybe
3
I
of
got
them.
that wrong. Yeah. She and her husband. And then we also had a wonderful band that played for us. And little stories about that. So Cherry Mega played piano for us. And then we also had on fiddle, Taffy's husband, Howard Geisel, played the fiddle for us. And let's see, we had a bass player for that show as well, I think. Maybe we didn't. There's Howard there. We did. Yeah. It was just piano and fiddle.
Just piano and fiddle.
Is totally believable. And then in the top center, there's Darcy Farrington, and Darcy played Vera, which is the matriarch of the Sanders family, and she's the one that rules the family with an iron fist. And Darcy was a fantastic Vera, played that part for us. Actually played the part before Plaza existed at our Artisan, and then also came and played it for us many times. And we were fortunate to have her and her crazy June bug speech, which is legendary as well. So Danielle, Taffy, Kyle, would you care to share some thoughts about what it was like to perform in a room that had giant poles in the middle of the stage?
Yeah. It was fun. I mean,
It was fun.
one of the reasons you love theater is because it's live and because there's new challenges every single performance. Like just obviously remembering your lines, making sure that the blocking goes well. You don't know what you're getting with your audience if a elderly gentleman needs to go to the bathroom in the middle of your monologue, things like that. So the polls just made it just kind of seem normal, like kind of like, okay, yeah, of course we would have polls like to work with in the middle of the stage. And you just kind of, it was fun how, I did multiple shows with you guys there at that location. It was fun how the polls kind of became, not necessarily a character, but for sure a part of the set. You know what I mean? Like we just incorporated them so well. So it was just a lot of fun to I love a challenge. I love live theater. And so it just added to that mix. And I'm pretty sure I've run into them by accident a couple times, but other than that, it was fine. So
I think it was Smoke on the Mountain. I think it was Smoke on the Mountain where we actually inserted the line, "Oh, there's a pole there," that went on from show to show to show to show after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That actually came from a rehearsal. Danielle ran into the pole in the middle of rehearsal and said, "Oh, there's a pole there." We're like, "You should keep that." And it just became part of the show.
That sounds about right. June and I are one. There wasn't much of a character difference on that one.
We were just earlier talking about the people that couldn't be here on the video conference with us. I have a clip of a song that Darcy, Caitlin, and Joey sang. Once again, one of these beautiful, authentic moments of the show. And I think probably the best vocal moment of our production from 2007. So what about we take a look at that real quick?
I'm taking a flight up to the sky, where I shall live and never more die. I'll meet with my loved ones and prophets of old, walk with my Savior on streets of pure gold, streets of pure gold. I'm taking a flight some wonderful day. Christ is my pilot, with him I shall stay. I'll sing with the angels and look on his face. Glory to God, I'm saved by his grace. Angels are gathering around the great throne. A great celebration will welcome me home. I'm taking a flight some wonderful day. My pilot is coming, I could leave any day.
That is a wonderful moment. I think that's a moment, Aaron, where you and I would stand over in the corner and count people.
That is one of the two moments that we were still. And it looks
there's
like
Wes Borland.
Wes Borland did play bass for it. He wasn't able to play every night, and I remember this because we didn't have a stand-up bass, and he didn't have a stand-up bass either. And so he would bring out this electric bass, which was not period appropriate. But he would always say to the audience around him, "I got this newfangled bass from Chicago," right? To keep it in character. So, but that's right, he did play bass. On this video recording we have, he wasn't able to be in that performance, but he did play bass in that.
Awesome.
So long
Well,
ago.
y'all, would you be willing to tell everybody kind of what you're up to, what your current work is, and all of? Oh, I was going to point out on that video, by the way, of Caitlin in there. She was 15 in that video, and here now she is, all these years later, a mom of 3. So it's been a while ago, y'all, that we did this show. But what are you up to? What are your professional pursuits, or with your families? Let the folks know what you're doing right now. I'm going to start with you, Danielle.
Sure. Well, as you guys saw, I'm a mama now, which is so much fun. So little Cole's 10 months. So pretty much my full-time job is literally chasing him around the house, which right now I actually don't know where he's at. I hear him down the hallway. There. So being a full-time mama, obviously full-time mama, of course. So that's a big deal. And I started my own video production company a little over 2 years ago in Fort Worth called Sophia Video Production. So I'm a full-time producer and director and writer and creative director and everything. I'm full-time everything, which has been really fun. So just trying to grow a business and a company and my family. It takes up all of my time, which is really fun. But I take Cole to work with me. I work from home a lot. He has his own little private office in downtown Fort Worth with his crib and a rocking chair, and everybody else doesn't even have an office. It's pretty funny. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And my husband and I, we just enjoy life and just take it kind of every day at a time. So.
Have you been able to continue video production work through the shutdown, through the quarantine?
Not really. Videos kind of last on everyone's list. It's funny because a lot of people obviously are going live stream now and doing a lot of video communication. But with the kind of videos that I produce, it's not necessarily on everyone's top list. So we were able to keep busy for like kind of the first month in with past projects, but everything kind of got put on hold. So it's just now, as of this last like week or two, starting to send out bids for video production, kind of calling my clients going, hey, when are you opening? When would you feel comfortable? So we've kept the trickle alive, but it's definitely, it's been a little rough the last month or so. But yeah, so I'm hoping for it to pick back up in the next little bit.
Well, best wishes on that.
Thanks.
How about you, Miss Taffy?
I still continue to teach high school acting classes, and I love that. This is our last week of classes, and I had to learn how to video stream a class. Terrifying for this cave dweller, dinosaur in technology, but I've done it. Triumph. I learned how to Zoom and talk to my students who are this big on the screen. And that's been a real challenge, but I'm very, very thankful that I was still able to go ahead and continue and finish the year with them. On screen was better than not. And my show projects were all canceled, so that was sad, but I trust that God is in control and that good things are going to come, and we just breathe and relax. My husband's a teacher. He will be finished the end of next week. He's had a lot of Zoom calls every day, pretty much, through the school. So that's kept us both really busy. And then we do sneak out and see our grandson occasionally. And we don't observe the 6-foot distance with him because he fits just right in my lap, and he's a source of joy. So I became a nana.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's so
when we were talking before we started, Danielle was talking a little bit about how she came to the point of being, let's say, a professional actress, and I can say that, can I? Because I've seen you on national commercials. So getting paid for acting, I think that makes you professional.
Yes.
And you started, I believe, with Miss Taffy. So will you kind of convey what you were saying about your experiences learning from her?
Yeah, so I was an oddball kind of growing up, just so let me give you the backstory for any actor who wants it. Oddball, I was homeschooled, and I have 2 older siblings who are like geniuses, like they were paid to go to college, and I wanted to be like a spy and a firefighter all at once. Like I wanted to be everything. I didn't know what I wanted. And I finally realized I actually went and saw a play at CATS, Creative Arts Theater and School in Arlington. And I remember watching a young woman on stage, and it made me want to kind of cry, just like what she was feeling. I started feeling what she was feeling on stage. And I'm like, wow, just thinking that thought process of, I can make people feel emotions. Like I can make people feel things. Like that's really powerful. But I was young and awkward and didn't know what to do with that. But I found out Taffy Geisel was the one who directed that show. And she went to my church. And so I told my mom, I was like, I think Miss Taffy teaches acting classes at CATS, and I want to do acting. And I was involved with sports. My mom, was homeschooling 3 children at the time. There was just a lot going on. And she's like, I don't know about that. And Miss Taffy somehow heard about it. I don't know if I told Miss Taffy or my mom told Miss Taffy, but she literally convinced my mom to put me in her homeschool acting class on Wednesday afternoons. So I was in acting class all of high school with Miss Taffy. She was my very first acting coach. She was the director of the play that inspired me to realize that I could make people feel emotions through acting. She was in Smoke on the Mountain when I was like, I have to be June Sanders, which I have been for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know how many times. I mean, it all kind of, I'm not going to lie, Miss Taffy, I'm not making this up. It all goes back to you. You opened the door for my passion and my heart and my theater. And I own a production company now. And it all started with that. And I'm so, one, in awe of you. And then also two, just so thankful for you and for convincing my mom to put me in acting class and seeing me. You casted me in my very first show. And I was as the lead too, of all things, which is insane. I don't know. I just owe a lot to you, Miss Taffy. I really do. And I'm so thankful for you. And you took what was inside of me and fanned a flame to it. So thank you.
Oh, bless you, Danielle. You were one of the most creative and joyous students I've ever had. I couldn't wait on Wednesdays till you got into class to see what on earth you were going to come up with. Because your ideas just sparked from everywhere. And everywhere you went, you brought light and life and fire to the stage. And I think you've inspired a lot of actors after you to see that, yeah, I can do that. One of my most memorable moments from your career was whenever you were in Treasure Island and you had to do the fall from the netting. And the horror I felt every time whenever you fell backwards and you were hanging by your ankle. Is your ankle okay now?
It is. I had a scar for a while. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Yeah.
You were that courageous, though. They told you to fall backwards, and you did. And there you were hanging upside down with your ankle in a net on the stage. That kind of exemplifies your courage as you face life, and it's gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Taffy.
That's a really sweet remembrance to share, Danielle. And I will dare say, Miss Taffy, that there are many that would share very similar feelings. I've heard many express similar views about getting the opportunity to work with you. You did allude to the fact that some of the projects you were working on have been canceled. I know one of those was our production of The Diary of Anne Frank, which we were in rehearsals for before the shutdown began. And unfortunately, we have had to, and I'm going to use the word postpone that show because in addition to Miss Taffy as director, the rest of the cast of that show is also going to be coming back to do that production for us during our 2021 season once we're back open. So we are looking forward to being able to do that, but sad that we've had to push that back due to these circumstances. Well, how about you, Kyle? Could you give us a little update on what you're doing? I know Aaron's got some info about that as well.
Yeah, I am. I work as a software developer at GM Financial. So I was already on a work from home rotation. So I had practice going into the shutdown. So now I am at my work domain here, all of that. So this is where I am 8 hours a day. And I haven't done a whole lot of theater. I think I've been a part of maybe about 3 productions in the last 5 years. My wife, Megan, she is the one that's more into the theater as a teacher and a director, and she's working with performing arts at Gateway Church. And yeah, that is my family, where we went as Harry Potter to our neighborhood Halloween party, and we had a pumpkin roll contest. So yeah, and so I am just basically daddy, and I love being domestic and being at home, and picked up a pastime of gardening. And yeah, that is the front of my house and all the colors that I like to put in there. And then, of course, my book that we talked about last week that just self-published. Went up last week at Monday, Sunday, somewhere around there. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. All things domestic and stay at home.
So you can go to Amazon right now and buy this book, even with one click. We learned from Kurt Mega, who bought it while we were in the middle of this broadcast last Thursday. So Kyle Adams, author, right there. And we encourage y'all to go check that out if you have a chance. Well, I'm sure the folks out there know what Aaron Seiler and myself have been up to. Pretty much we are here at Plaza doing all that we can to try and help the theater get back on its feet. as we've been shut down during the past 8 weeks. We do have plans for eventually being able to reopen, as I alluded to before, with this production or another production of Smoke on the Mountain, and look forward to the time when we can actually make the announcement that that's what we're doing. But we're in a bit of a holding pattern, just like everybody else is right now, trying to make the best decision we can for this little company that we built starting over 13 years ago. Of course, you guys were all a huge part of that. We consider it a great blessing to have gotten to work with all of you. Danielle, I was going to tell you, as we've begun the process of starting to put together Smoke on the Mountain, we have an actress here that has become legendary to our patrons as June. Her name is Camille Shaw, and she is Cleburne famous because of the role of June. Everywhere she goes, people talk to her about the sign language girl, and she's the one that actually took the role over from you. And she's actually talked about how when she first started, she was living in your shadow. People would come to the theater and say, "Are we seeing the sign language girl?" And if it wasn't you, they were disappointed. And I recall you telling me that initially when you took over from Anne at Artisan, you experienced something similar. How people were like, "Oh, we need to see that other girl," and then they saw you and you were great, and they're like, "Oh, she's pretty good." And that's what happened for Camille as well. So it's a really well-written part, but it does take a very wonderful actress to make that part work. And it is the one that people walk away remembering. There is no doubt about that.
That's true.
Well, any last thoughts from y'all? Any last things that you want to share with those who might be watching with us today? Your experiences working on 2007 Smoke on the Mountain?
It was great joy. And theater is great joy, and theater is worth supporting. It's the telling of stories, and our hearts as humans, we, from the very beginning, have longed for stories to tell us how to live and how to walk and how to relate. So come support Plaza as soon as they reopen, and support theater everywhere you can. Theater's life.
Thank you. You know, right at the end of the show, and Smoke on the Mountain, there's a moment where the family, some craziness has happened during the show, and some things have been revealed, and we've learned things about each of the members of the family. But at the very end, they all come together. They actually recite their family scripture, and then they sing they sing Smoke on the Mountain, the title song. And so it might be really fitting to close out with that. So I've got that video here, so let's take a look at it.
I think that was Danielle on the cowbell right there at the very end. Love that cowbell.
My
and
one
Smoke
musical
on the
talent.
Well, bless you all for joining us today. We sure do appreciate it. We hope those of you that have been out there watching us reminisce about this show, enjoyed talking about Smoke on the Mountain in 2007 with us. As you can tell from the way we've talked about it, it's a show that meant a lot to us, this experience and working with these wonderful people. And Aaron, with that, if you want to kind of take us home.
Sure. I just want to say thank you so much, everyone online right now watching us. We sure do appreciate you guys spending the past hour with us, and we hope you enjoy as much as we did putting it together. If you see it in your mind, we know it's a difficult time, but if we see it in your mind, if you'd follow that link there and donate a little bit, every little bit can help. And we're real excited to get back on our feet and see you guys again soon. So
great seeing y'all.
Seeing you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.